How to rent an apartment after meeting your true love. You finally met the person of your dreams and you don't really know how to go about renting with them to make sure that you guys succeed as a couple. So you've come to the right place, and let's get ready to do this. Today is a brand new episode of Mastermind Mondays. Thanks for coming back to watch us. If you're new here, welcome. And today we're going to talk about how to rent an apartment with your new love. And we have 4 easy tips for you to follow to make sure that you guys not only win as a couple, but also win as new renters with a landlord. And so you can preserve your relationship with the person you love. So without further ado, tip number 1. So the first thing I want to suggest before moving in with the person you love, hopefully you were dating for a little bit, but you really want to make sure you have an alignment on a personality. So I suggest going through and doing some personality assessments. There may not be any online as far as apartment renting is concerned. So I'm going to walk you through a few key factors that you guys want to focus on before you make your first move. In this tip, I want you guys to consider bedtime, because bedtime is a really big part of you guys being able to get along and also having the fortitude to move on through every single day, because you have to have your rest. So how you guys go about sleeping when you actually do sleep, you got to consider work schedules. Just factor in sleep schedules and make sure that you guys can get along so each person can have restful sleep and then be productive the next days, because the last thing we want is any of you not getting the sleep that you need, getting fired, and then not having the money to pay for rent and getting evicted. That would be a very terrible ending to a really nice story. So the next part of this tip is cleanliness, personal hygiene, maintaining the daily collection of trash and dirty socks and dirty underwear and all of that stuff. And if one of you is going to be a very sloppy person and the other person is going to be a very neat person, and you guys can't sync up on maintaining a level of cleanliness that is comfortable for both of you, then the relationship is going to be heading for disaster. And you really don't want to have the landlord get involved with your noise complaints that you're going to be getting from all the yelling you'll be doing at each other. So really figure this out before you make your move about what is the cleaning schedule, what are the living standards that you guys are going to be happy with, how many dishes will you allow to accumulate in the sink before they get washed, if any. Same thing with laundry. Same thing with the next part of this tip, which is how loud you guys are going to be or what kind of music you're going to listen to, because that's really going to be a factor. Because what if somebody likes to play music, the other person doesn't like to play music? What if one of you is a hummer or a whistler? Is there a whistling policy in the apartment? Work through all of the noise issues. Unfortunately, if one of you is sound sensitive and the other person's a loud chewer, I don't know, really, you might have to figure out that you're gonna have to either both eat very loudly or eat in separate rooms. So if there's a will, there's a way, but there are ways to accomplish a kumbaya situation where everybody just kind of gets along. The next sub tip is going to be your food schedule. The food schedule also includes who pays for the food. And so you wanna figure out, how are you guys gonna split the food? Are there declared, no pass zones in the refrigerator? You don't touch my side, I don't touch your side. Like who cooks? All of these things need to be worked through, because food is going to be a sensitive topic because it pertains to a really basic need. Money is going to be another sensitive topic about who pays for what portions. So work through the food and money topics in a very sensitive way, but obviously you want to do that way before you guys move in. You really don't want to be trying to figure this out after you've moved in, because if you guys can't come into an alignment on this, believe me, things will end badly, and hopefully you guys aren't going to hate each other throughout the entire duration of the lease, because it would be the 12 longest months of your life. And if you guys end up bailing, you don't want to get the landlord involved and having the landlord chase after you for any unpaid bills. Coming to the next sub tip is bills. The rent bill being the biggest, and then you have gas, utilities, electric, internet. All of these bills need to get figured out before you guys move in. You got to think about what is everybody's income and how much can they contribute to paying those bills. What is going to be the commitment on that? Are you going to pay all the bills? Will you be fine with that? If the other person ends up losing their job and you have to cover all the bills, what is going to be an acceptable time period for you? Can you even afford to do that? One of you has some job instability. You got to figure out, do you have enough money saved so that if there is no income coming in, can the other person swing the entire cost of all of the utilities, all of the food, and anything else that has to get factored into living? Because if you love each other and you're not just roommates, then you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit and help the other person when they're down. If this is a roommate situation, this is obviously not a consideration, and you really are watching the wrong video. If you haven't already seen a roommate video from us, then go through our channel and see a roommate video and then watch that one. So the next thing that I want you guys to consider, and this is tip number 2, is, and hopefully it's not too early for you guys if you're in love, right? Because the idea of love is you want to spend time with each other and maybe even have a family. So you got to talk about that a little earlier before you move in, because if you are going to have a family, you want to plan for that and have enough bedrooms to grow into. So if you're going to take a 1 year or 2 year lease and you plan on having kids within that year or 2 years, you got to make sure you have enough bedrooms, because otherwise you're going to be forced to move because you don't want to violate the building code or the fire code for your municipality. And so just think about that. Think about your income, how many bedrooms you need, and then based on the income and how many bedrooms you need, you'll be able to find areas where you can afford to live that are obviously going to have to be close to some job. If you're telecommuting, then it doesn't matter, right? Because you never leave the house generally. But if you are moving around and you have different jobs and you're doing consulting, or you have a regular day job that you're going to, or a night job, whatever, you got to factor in the commute. When is the commute the heaviest? Because commute to work is going to be a big part of that. So these things, commuting and parking, are your largest factors in this tip of considering how many bedrooms you guys are going to want. The bedrooms tip is a big tip, right? Because you have all of these other considerations like area, parking, commute. Work through that together. I'm going to make a plug here. 36010x.com is a great resource for you guys. So 36010x.com/fast track has a form there that'll help you figure out where you can afford to live based on your search criteria. So tip number 3 is ground rules. And ground rules are going to be really important for you to figure out how you're going to get along. What you're really talking about is tolerances for the kind of things you will not tolerate, the kind of things you can tolerate for a short while, and the kind of things that you're expecting from the other person, and also the kind of things that make you happy. So this is going to be an exploratory conversation, and believe me, you're going to learn a lot about each other, and probably you'll even learn a lot about yourself. My recommendation with all of these tips is that you guys actually sit down and jot all this down, because you want to make sure that nobody is shifting the line, right? Nobody's shifting the border. So write it out, make sure you guys come to an agreement on this, because believe me, it'll be very helpful for you guys to keep the peace. The other thing I want to mention about ground rules, if you have pets, for example, you got to set the ground rules for who buys the food, who takes care of the pet if it makes a mistake, who's going to be responsible for taking it to the vet and paying for the vet bills. Pets are a really big consideration. It's like having a child, and it's not necessarily that much cheaper depending on the kind of pet that you have. And also there are some complications with having pets in certain buildings. You gotta factor in that, wild pit bulls are really cute when they're babies, and, blue-nosed pit bulls, and there's so much love around pit bulls. And there are other dog breeds that are restricted that are not gonna be allowed in certain buildings. So you gotta factor all of that in before you guys just go out and buy yourself a pet as training wheels for a child, because there are going to be more severe restrictions with certain kind of dogs, and there aren't obviously that kind of restrictions with children, because that would be illegal. And then tip number 4, and this is a big one, you got to talk about friends. Why friends are a big topic is, number 1, there are certain kind of friends that one person may not want to have come over to their house, right? To your mutual new home. And the reason for that is maybe they don't like that person, or maybe that person doesn't respect their property, or maybe they're rowdy, or maybe there could be some tension there between the parties. The kind of people that come over and visit is going to be a big deal, and also how you guys host. Because if you guys plan on hosting lots and lots of people, you got to figure out, is parking going to allow that? I've lived in certain places where the parking was so bad it made it nearly impossible to entertain. And if you're very social people and you like having people come over to spend time with you, well, that's going to be a problem, right? Because you can't entertain people because there's no parking. And also, as far as friendships are concerned, you guys have to think about who are you allowed to visit with privately in your mutual apartment while the other person is not there. If that makes you feel uncomfortable, you want to figure that out early, because you don't want to create any kind of friction between them and their friends that might also jeopardize their friendships, and which will will ultimately jeopardize your relationship. So you got to figure out where are the boundaries that everybody's going to be happy with, and then there's stability in your cohabitation. And here's a bonus tip. You guys have to talk about the kind of stuff you're going to be bringing, because the new apartment you're going to be moving into is going to have some space limitations, and there's going to be some stuff you guys aren't going to want the other person to bring, either because it's ugly or because maybe it pertains to a previous relationship of somebody's, or it doesn't work with the decor. So talk about all these things before you start getting trucks and start hauling all your stuff in there, and then realize that the other person doesn't really like all that stuff in the apartment, and now you're filling up a dumpster of the landlords, and you just moved in, and now their bill's going up because they're throwing out most of your trash, and that's creating new friction with a new landlord, and that's a bad situation for you. So just talk through this bonus tip and figure out the kind of furniture that's going to be moving in with you guys, and whether or not you're going to be buying new furniture together. So here's a quick survey. Let me know which of these tips is the most important or most useful for your new relationship. I'm really excited that you guys are going to be moving in together. That's super fun. You guys are going to have so much fun learning about each other and learning how to get along. And there's going to be some tension. That's normal. And just remember that it's going to take some transitioning and adjusting and mutual cooperation to have a great relationship with you together and also with your new landlord. Remember to give us a like and a subscribe. Remember to hit the bell so you can get notified the next time we publish content. Thank you so much for watching and commenting and sharing this with your friends, family on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.